Welcome to the Fabulous 50s and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host, with my wife, Jeanetta. Today we have a very important topic that we're going to be discussing. There's a conference coming to town that I think all of you would be interested in, and it's called a Caregivers Conference. And we've found out over the past few years that in a lot of instances, it's the caregiver that goes down before the person that they're caring for. So this is going to be an interesting conference. It's one that will give you a lot of good information. And we have some important facts and things we're going to be talking about today. So you stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Neely. Ann is the Family Caregiver Coordinator at PAD, our Purchase Area Development District. We use the acronym PAD most of the time, though for it. It's easier to say. Well, we're glad to have you with us today, Ann, to talk about this important conference that's coming up. And the conference is actually going to be May the 2nd. And it's at the Carson Center, which I think is great. And it's in the one of the rooms there, one of the conference rooms there. And is that the one that's on the second floor?
It is. It's the Myre River room, so it's real close to the veranda where you can on breaks go out and see the.
That's great. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. Is pre-registration required?
Yes, it's mandatory because there will be a meal served, and that's how they're going to do their head count, and there's going to be limited amount that can come in. Okay.
Before we get into actually what the conference is, I'm just going to kind of cover some things that I thought that were great about. One of them is that you are actually going to provide respite care.
Right. The program itself that I'm coordinating is for caregivers. They just have to make application. They can call the PAD office and get applications. And then from there we do home visits, assessments, and see what the family might need. You're dealing with the caregiver the entire time, and there's several kind of goals that you go over, but I think my favorite goal is that you're relieving some stress from the caregiver. And so many times the care recipient has a diagnosis that requires constant care. And there's a lot of money in that that the family may or may not have. There's a lot, there's so much to it. But anytime that we can give respite, we through the program as well. But for this particular conference, if they're in our program, they'll get the respite. If they have someone that maybe needs to be in our program, I encourage them to call the office, get an application, and let's get some things started.
We were discussing earlier that this program has not been around that many years.
Right.
Tell us briefly how it got started. Doesn't have to be briefly, but how it got started, and I think how it's funded also would be good to know.
There is the Older Americans Act, that's Title IIIe. It's all, but this is national monies. And about 6 or 7 years ago, the national government began to see that not only were across the board Americans living longer, as they began to age, they may or may not do that very well, and if they didn't, somebody was caring for them. And just like you said, the person with the diagnosis has a lot of attention, the doctors and this, that, and the other. The person behind the scenes keeping things balanced has almost no attention until somebody in the government realized, hey, these are the people that need something. And so the program provides monetary grants for certain things. They may be information sharing, support groups, that type thing. Assistance in terms of maybe if they, we don't do like equipment per se, but where to get equipment and things like that. A lot of these people are just so isolated, especially in our area. Our area is, rural anyway, but and the chronological age of the caregivers, sometimes they don't know who to call. They really are pretty much by themselves.
Well, that's the thing that we discovered. We've been doing this program for a lot of years, and it was interesting when we first started how much information we found out and services that were available that nobody knew anything about.
Right, right.
And so we have made that one of our goals to inform the general public of what's available for their needs.
Exactly, exactly. And some people have nothing. Every now and then, I guess, I've been there like a year and a half, I guess. I've probably done a half a dozen assessments of people that have moved to this area from totally different place, in the United States. They maybe liked the lake or were up north and didn't like the cold so much. So they're not only here with some debilitating diagnoses, they don't have any family, any friends, or anything. So they, this information
is
this
good. Is, I pastored several years, and one of my areas I pastored was South Florida. And one of the things we found out, like in South Florida, is people get down there and when they die, they have nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a semi-retirement era where we are to some extent and run into the same thing. I mean, I conducted a funeral in South Florida one time with one person in attendance.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
It's very sad to me to see someone who does not have anybody who seems to care about them.
I did an assessment 2 weeks ago. It was more toward the lakes. This couple, actually the wife was diagnosed with MS. She had the diagnosis before they moved. So they knew, but they did get here. And after the assessment, the caregiver, her husband was the caregiver, wanted to show me, like, here, our pantry's got a lot of food in it. If anything happens to me, and I was thinking, he doesn't even have a very systematic, he's thinking of her quite a bit and worried about something will happen to him, but nothing real systematic, meaning I was thinking who would be in here. Right. I mean, it's good to have it and things like that. So you find people that I really do think that after living with the disease for a while, if they don't have some sort of program, some sort of informational system on some kind of routine basis, their thinking isn't real logical sometimes. I could tell that he cared so much for her, but didn't really have thought he had a plan, but had nothing in place.
See, this is another thing that we've tried to do through this program, is encourage volunteerism. Because, I mean, there are men and women in this community that would just love to have a phone call once a week, much less once a day.
Oh, yes.
Somebody, and that's where two people who are looking for a phone call from somebody could call each other.
Right.
When you think about it.
Right.
And it's sad, like she says, when people end up with nobody that cares about them. And through volunteerism and everything, and you may have a volunteer program where you do things like that, but I think that this is one of the things that our agencies need, more volunteers. We encourage people to volunteer through this program. In fact, we tell them most of the time at the end of our program, don't wait to be asked, go out and volunteer, because you're sitting there, most of our people are over 50 or 55, a lot of them retired. They aren't doing anything, quote unquote, constructive.
Right.
So we want to encourage them to do that. So the program started as a result of the Older Americans Act, I guess. And
seeing the need,
seeing the need there. So basically, what does your program do?
Okay, I'm going to go through step by step. Say you're in a situation where maybe dad has a stroke, and there might be a wife, they might be 2 towns over, a daughter, and this, that, and the other, but their lives have changed dramatically. They're not going to stay in the hospital long, because when you have a stroke, you're not sick. You only stay in the hospital if you're sick. You're usually back home, with therapies and things like that pretty soon. But I mean, so many changes. If the fellow was maybe gainfully employed, that's going to change, or even retired. That. So anyway, the family is first faced with sudden change, and then they have to learn what those changes mean. That car isn't going to move. That paycheck isn't going to come in, that type thing. Even his differences, maybe he has weakness on one side and things like that. He may have therapies for a while that come to the house. And then you're getting in the car to drive to therapies and things like that. So your world has gone from, just 3 meals a day, do a little laundry, to what are we doing now? What happens today? That type thing. And so again, the care recipient, the person that maybe had the stroke, is getting all the attention, but the ones putting him in the car, taking him out, helping him with the bath, things like that, are really having a tough time. They really are having a tough time. So, they hear about the program whichever way, like churches, that type thing, or being where they hear about the program, they call, they get just a phone call. I mean, I don't have to ever see them, just send them that application. They fill out the information, and they mail it back in. And when all that happens, we start building a chart and calling them and say, okay, we need to come out and do an assessment. So I go to their home, and is hopefully with as many family members that are involved, but sometimes it's always just one. But you're seeing what's going on now. To be in my program, it isn't diagnosis specific. It's not money specific. It's the amount of frailty this person, the care recipient, has. Are they able to manage medicine? Are they able to manage money? That type thing. What level? That's what qualifies these people as needing a caregiver. Okay, then we start talking about what services that are available through this program. Now, respite, we had talked about respite, but I wanted to make sure that the word respite, that people understood the meaning of it, because we use it quite frequently. Respite really means that if you are there the whole time, you'll have somebody there, so the person can get away for a few hours or a few days or that type thing without having to worry. And so that's what really respite means. But there's respite services. There's services maybe they're taking care of the care recipient, and their house is a mess, so they've got homemaking, or the care recipient is pretty involved, so they have personal care where they come in and help, get the care recipient bathed and things like that. Some people we have supplies, just any kind of diabetic, incontinent, that type thing, supplies, if they, qualify. And then another supply we provide is the medical alert button, or that type thing. So all those are available, and the caregiver chooses, we talk about different things, and they choose what they'd like to have.
Hold that point. We got to take a break.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be back, though, because this is very interesting, and I hope people are paying attention. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Diseases will be cured here. A new form of energy will be discovered here. And here, the first flight to Mars will be launched. From inside this room, the latest social media craze will be created, as will the most downloaded song of all time. And in here, the next blockbuster 3D movie will be made, because great futures start here. It's where the Boys and Girls Clubs, in partnership with Microsoft and Comcast, are teaching kids computer skills in a program called Club Tech. It's just another way we're helping millions of students succeed today, tomorrow, and beyond.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Ann Neely, and she is the Family Caregiver Coordinator for Purchase Area Development in Mayfield, Kentucky. And let me also say that PAD, Purchase Area Development, what, 16 counties they cover now, I think?
8.
8 counties, okay, and which is a vast area. And that, even within itself, makes it hard to get the word out about everything that's going on.
Right.
And the services that are available and all. So we appreciate the job that PAD does in our area and the work that they do. But we're going to talk about, we've been talking about some of the services that are available through her division or her group there. And we talked about information and some of the supplies that are available, different things like that. And I think counseling and support groups and training are very important. And let me say this, that if you can supply us with different types of information, we can put this up on our website, the Fabulous 50s, and make it available to link to some of the things that you've got going on that they can see about it. But we want to talk about this conference that's coming up on May the 2nd. It's on Thursday, May the 2nd from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the Luther Carson Four Rivers Center. The speaker, the featuring speaker, our main speaker is Gary Barg. And Gary's written a book entitled The Fearless Caregiver. It's an interesting book. I've had the book for several years, and it's something that you would be interested in. Lunch will be provided for those who pre-register.
Right.
Is there a charge?
There's no charge.
No charge.
There's just limited amount, so
Okay.
I want the people to
be sure to pre-register so that they'll be there. Talk to us a little bit about Gary, how he got involved in this and everything, if you can.
I got the opportunity to see him in Nashville this time last year, and it was just a very nice conference. His background is, and he's got a brother too, that they took care of their parents, mainly his dad. And some of the changes that they went through, and his dad was more or less in decline. It wasn't something, sudden like a stroke. It was sort of in decline. But they watched their mom. They just watched their mom, and they were just amazed at the changes. Of course, she had so many emotional changes and things like that that they just didn't realize. They felt like they had emotional changes from being just the children, but when they started looking at her, I think that was the big deal. But one of the things that I liked when he talked to the room is, of course, the main people that came were caregivers, and you could tell that they were from different types of caregiving. And for example, specifically, a woman had talked about they had moved her dad to a nursing facility, and she was very emotional about it. She really had was still having a hard time with it, and his reaction was, "That's the way you're taking care of him," you know, you're still taking care of him. And I think that gave her such relief that there's different levels of caregiving, so many decisions that even if there's more than one child, sometimes it's just one, you know, there's just one Lone Ranger.
Oh, we've discovered that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't care how many brothers or sisters you have. There may be just one or two that are really helping out with them.
That show up.
That's right.
And you know, and then I'm amazed when I'm doing an assessment and I say, oh, you've got a sister, and they'll say, oh yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, well, she's in California. They'll say she's 2 streets over, but she never comes, and I'm thinking, you know, and here she needs so much help. You know, I am very much amazed at that.
And another thing is, it's one thing to have to put a parent in a nursing home, but if you don't go back and somebody needs to go make sure they visit that person,
Right.
and that they're being taken care of.
Right. Right.
Because my mother was in one, thankfully not for long, but she was in one. And there was a little lady in the room with her. I'll never forget her. She almost never had company. I think, and she had 3 kids. And she would talk real low. You couldn't understand what she was saying. But one day I was in there visiting Mother, and she wanted me to do something, and I could not understand her. Well, I understood the next thing she said. She said, just sitting there like a dummy.
So she at least fussed at you, huh? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I don't, you know, I know it happens, you know, I know in our own family, you know, something similar happened. It all landed on, you know, somebody, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed. You know, you're talking about, I wish people would just volunteer, and I'm thinking, I wish the family members, or, you know, that could be more of a caregiver that are at hand would take part. But, you know, that's not mine.
But you know, and if you notice, I was just sitting here thinking about this, that we believe that everybody has been given at least one gift, you know. And there are some people that are just gifted in being able to be compassionate, if that's the word, with people,
And
whether they're related to them or not, you know. And
they've got a sixth sense. I agree.
My mother was one of those people. I had a friend after she died that told me that Mother walked in the snow one day, a mile or so, to go visit somebody that was sick. I mean,
You didn't even know it,
she
did
was
you?
just that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know it until that lady told me.
that's the reason it made
And
it
she
very,
told you because she admired it too.
but that's one of the reasons it made it difficult for her mother. When we were having the girls, she has sisters, and fortunately they all took part, you know, so it made the load a whole lot easier.
Oh, good.
And so there were times that they had to pay people to sit with their mother. Her mother couldn't understand that because she had done this for years and never taken a penny of money.
And never thought about it.
No.
Absolutely never. You know, if somebody had offered her money, she would have thought, wait a minute, you must think I'm a different person.
Yeah.
But she will get her reward in heaven.
So now, talk about Gary's book a little bit. It's called The Fearless Caregiver. And I think that's one of the things that we need to realize, that we have to become fearless sometimes.
Well, I think what he's got a brand new book now, so I don't know what the new one's going to be. But the Fearless Caregiver is, he wants the caregiver to, you know, look at yourself in the mirror, figure out how you can get out today and take a walk. You know, break through this routine. Start being proactive in terms of taking care of yourself. And even if you say that type of thing to a caregiver, you have to say it over and over again until they get someplace and get going. You know, that type thing. They feel like, you know, if I leave, this won't get done, even if somebody's there, you know, that type thing. And you're thinking, you know, just a little bit further, you know, they're going to be fine, they're going to eat, they're going to sleep, you know, that type thing. it's being fearless is not only just being proactive, but I think he wants people like us in our program to say, you know, there can be a division here. You can be away for a while, that type thing, and it's not going to fall apart while you're gone. So you're being, you know, proactive about, you know, go get a haircut or take a walk or have lunch out or something like that, as well as don't be there thinking, I hope this is done, I hope that's done, and that type thing. You know, it's just, you know, I guess every woman that's had small children, you remember that, you know, those first few times that you tried to, you know, you go out and you think, oh gosh, they won't take a bottle for them. You know, and until, you know, and it takes a long time to make that weaning process. And so that's pretty much what he's talking about.
Excuse me. Another thing is that the roles are reversed. You now become the parent, and they're the child. Right. But as I tell somebody, you know, the other day, you can't take a 90-year-old woman, paddle their little bottom like you would a 2-year-old and make them do something. It's impossible.
Well, and the same thing, like with Alzheimer's, you know, they don't understand that we're going to do this, we're going to do that, that type thing. You know, it's not like you can do anything and make them behave. There's, you know, it's just not there.
Well, Ann, we're out of time. Other than promoting this conference, and we really want to promote it.
I want you two to come.
Well, we'll be there.
Okay.
And it's Thursday, May the 2nd, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Luther F. Carson Fall River Center. Now, I want to encourage our audience out there to let their churches know about it, let their civic organizations know about it. If there's any organization that has a lot of caregivers in it, it's our churches. And we want to encourage them to take part in that. And we want to encourage you. Now, they can pick up their brochures by calling the 800 number 866-4213. And you'll be sure to get them on. These will be at other places, I'm sure.
Right.
And we want to encourage you to do that. So you pay attention to this conference, and also remember that volunteers are needed everywhere, and don't wait to be asked, you volunteer. So we thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Ann. Thank you for viewing our show, and remember, use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to, can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony.